Hi everyone, you caught me in the middle of writing my Father's Day card to my dad because Sunday is Father's Day. And I got a card for him that says he's the king of barbecues because genuinely he does make an awesome barbecue, and it's one of the things I'm missing during lockdown is being able to visit my dad and eat some of his barbecued food. And this week we've been thinking about the different ways in which each of the gospel writers talks about Jesus, the ways that the message that they want to get across about Jesus. And John's is connected to my Father's Day card because John is all about showing that Jesus is the Son of God. And then he goes on to show that Jesus himself is God. And so Matthew talks about him being the king, Mark talks about him being the servant, Luke talks about how he's the friend of everyone and welcomes everyone into his kingdom. And John, the fourth gospel, is quite different from the rest in the way it's written. But it talks about how Jesus is the Son of God. And if you think about the start of each of the Gospels, you've got Mark, and he starts as soon as he's 30. And then you've got Matthew, and he starts when Jesus is born and the kings come to visit him. Luke starts just a little bit earlier with the birth of John the Baptist, his older cousin. And then you've got John, and John's first words say, "In the beginning." Now that isn't talking about in the beginning of Jesus' life on earth. That is referring all the way back to Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the world and everything in it. And John is saying, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And he's saying Jesus was there right at the beginning. And so he's taking it just that little bit further back, all the way back to the beginning of all of creation, to show that Jesus is God. And then throughout John's Gospel, you've got these things that Jesus says. He always says, "I am" something. So there's 7 of these big I am statements. I am the good shepherd. I am the bread of life. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth and life. And Jesus talks about these I ams all the time. And it's a really clever little technique that John puts in, because God's name in the Old Testament is simply I am. You know, Moses asks his name and God says, "I am that I am. My name is I am." And so that's the name of God. And John always makes sure that Jesus is saying, "I am," to show us that he thinks and he wants to convince us that Jesus is God. And so that's what the Gospel of John is all about. It's all about us seeing that Jesus is God. And so just a question for you, who do you see Jesus as? We've seen throughout this week the way that these Gospel writers think about who Jesus is. And now the question is over to you. Who do you think Jesus is? Who do you say he is? Let's just pray as we finish. God, thank you for the love that you have shown in Jesus. Thank you for how he's the king. Thank you for how he's the servant. Thank you for how he is the friend of all. And thank you as well that he is God himself, that he is God, that we can put our trust and our faith in Jesus as our Lord and Saviour. Lord, help us to work out for ourselves who we think Jesus is. Amen.